Puda, you the GOAT, boy.
Okay, thank you guys so much for joining. I'm so excited to have you all with me tonight. My name is Michelle Hockett. I'm currently a content marketing media specialist at Spotify. I'm also the founder of It's Epic, and I'm going to be your host for Quarantine Chats. So this week, we are starting off with a whole week of quarantine chats and all different conversations and topics that I really believe that everyone would love. So a little bit more about It's Epic. It's Epic is a creative and professional networking platform looking to connect creatives and professionals with other dope creatives and professionals. So if you're a creative, a freelancer, a strategist, you name it, we are aiming to connect you with people who are in use of your services. And if you're a brand, an entrepreneur, an artist, we're looking to connect you with creatives and professionals who need your help. So if you're interested in joining our network, please head over to itsepicgroup.com and join. So our first conversation of the week is a really special one. It's Young, Black, and in Tech. I believe that this will be super engaging for you guys. We have 3 really all-star tech professionals who have been in the game for years in all different fields, departments, and industries. So I'm going to introduce them to you. First, we have Fanta Dicko. Fanta is an account manager at Microsoft. At Microsoft, she's responsible for managing and building relationships between digital advertisers in Microsoft advertising. She works on building her clients' advertising efforts through strategic planning and data. Fanta is also the founder of Melanin Moi, an online platform for over 4,000 women of color. She finds it very important to deliver resources to women of color so that they don't have to scour the web for it. Melanin Moi takes pride in their content, from curating unique in-person experiences to showcasing original stories and features. Fanta believes in choosing passion over probability. Growing up with 2 immigrant parents, she was taught that reaching one's goal is more about one's desire than the odds. As a result, she consistently chosen projects that align with her passions and values. Her long-term goal is to combine her 3 passions: technology, marketing, and beauty. Fanta holds a BS in Information Management and Technology and Public Communication from Syracuse University. So give it up for Fanta. Next, we have Shayla Cole. Shayla is a senior social media strategist at Lyft. Shout out to her shirt and the Black culture on her shirt. There, she sits on the brand marketing team and oversees digital strategy and social media for Lyft across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Her areas of focus are culture and entertainment, social impact initiatives, live events, bikes and scooters, and more. When she's not getting paid endlessly to scroll through the internet, she spends her time volunteering for nonprofits that align with her core values and interests. Shayla currently sits on the board of directors for a Silicon Valley-based educational nonprofit called Bay Area Tutoring Association. There, she partners with the founder to advise on everything from brand strategy and growth marketing to paid media and digital advertising. Taking a pretty unconventional path from her peers at the Wharton School of Business, Shayla is passionate about finding transferable skills and experiences and using them to her advantage for it to make any kind of career pivot of your dream. She's also deeply committed to diversifying places where people of color are historically underrepresented and doing what she can to leave her door open for others like her. Shayla holds a BS in economics with a concentration of marketing operations management from the University of Pennsylvania. Give it up for Shayla. And last without least, we have Malik Evans. Malik is a seasoned marketing professional with experience when working in performance marketing agencies, in-house consultancies, and tech companies. Currently, Malik is a partner manager at Facebook, working with full-service agencies to drive their marketing strategies across the Facebook family of apps. Through this role, Malik is focused on developing social strategies to support his end client marketing and business objectives. Outside of his professional endeavors, Malik enjoys mentoring and helping men of color pursue their passion projects and work towards their professional aspirations. So guys, I want this chat to be very interactive and as engaging as possible. Please use the question and answer button below and raise your hand if you have any questions. We will stop along the way. So please just let me know. And with that, let's get started. So first, everyone, tell us about your transition into the tech industry. what made you switch into the industry, and why do you enjoy being in tech so much? So who would like to start?
I guess I'll start since I kind of always knew I wanted to be in tech. So I went to Syracuse University and, like Michelle said, majored in tech. I always had a tech background. I went to a tech high school. And then, so I actually started my first job at Ernst& Young, and it was in the financial services industry. And I kind of like, I just wasn't passionate about it. I didn't really like it. And like, I knew that I studied in IT. Like, I knew I had that, like, those skills. I learned like coding and HTML. So I like didn't want to leave the tech, but I didn't want to be a coder. Like, I didn't want to like program all day and do that. But like, this is what I majored in. So we can get to that more later, like how I got into my current job. But really, I've always been in tech, studying that in college, as well as joining organizations that helped me get the skills to be in there. That's been really helpful. But yeah, I like always knew I wanted to be in tech.
Nice. And Shayla?
So for me, it was a little bit different. So I come from an entertainment background. So like all throughout college, I interned at like a variety of different entertainment companies in a variety of different marketing capacities. And that was definitely the path that I wanted to go on. And then I guess around my senior year, I just sort of started thinking about tech as an option. I don't know why I didn't previously think about it too seriously. I guess I never really thought of it as an outlet for my creativity that I knew I wanted to do. But it kind of occurred to me during senior year that there are creative roles within tech, and it's not just like coding, like Fanta was saying. So then that's when it kind of became a passion point for me. I didn't immediately go into it right after graduating, but I had my eye on it, and I knew that I always wanted to make that pivot into tech. So I like the journey wasn't exactly straightforward to get there, and I'd love to talk about that at some point. But that's kind of how I transitioned into tech.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for me, like I came typically from a marketing background. So within marketing, there's a lot of different sectors that you can go into. You can go either client side, you can stay on the agency side, you can go to the partner side, which is most likely the tech side. So whether that be a Facebook, a Google, a Trade Desk, any of those partners that we work with on the ad agency side. And for me, I was always interested into tech, but I didn't really know how to break through because agencies, like there's so many different advertising agencies. It's probably like 1,000 alone in New York City, and just think about how many are around globally. So I knew that after being at a couple of ad agencies, I kind of tapped out on that industry, and I kind of wanted to move somewhere else. And then in-house and consultancy was kind of a great purview into knowing like what the in-house world looked like. But I didn't really want to be kind of tied to only one client, because when you're on the client side, you truly are breathing and living that one business. And I really want to kind of diversify my background as a whole. So the tech side is really where I was able to also do advertising like things I would do on the agency side, but be more so in tune with what actually is going across all industries. So that's where I found myself kind of landing at Facebook.
Nice. And just to give a quick background, we have people from tech agencies, Fonta's in New York, Malik's in Chicago, and Shayla's in San Francisco. So tech can literally be anywhere in the US. You can stay where you want. You can, relocate like Shayla and Malik both did. So it's very easy to do. So I guess my next question is, what would you say the importance of having people of color, more importantly, Black voices in your field?
Malik, take it.
Yeah, being virtually is like, wait, who's gonna jump in? I would say, I mean, the Black voice is probably the most important part, right? So I think we see across, definitely within social media, the impact and the influence that Black culture has. So a lot of these companies want and need people like us. You may hear a dog barking every once in a while because there's a dog around. But yeah, so we need to be at the table and they want us to be at the table. But I think oftentimes it's about how to get there. So I would say companies like Twitter, Facebook, Google, they're on the entire tech spectrum, Microsoft, Lyft. They definitely want us to be at the table and they want our voice to be heard. I know there's a lot of microaggressions that definitely take place within the workplace, so we won't discount those at all. I'm sure we'll talk about them. But, the Black voice is probably the most powerful because we understand what's happening within culture because these companies want to be at the forefront of tapping into that culture.
Yeah. And it's just like building off of that, it's sort of, in my head, it's always like, how can you talk to Black people if you don't have any Black people in the company? So it's like, for a lot of the times, like a lot of the Black population within a company don't match the Black population that's within like the consumer market that these brands are trying to talk to. So, I mean, just outside of that, it's also like you need diverse voices to also help some brand fails from not happening. So like I think about that, was it a Pepsi commercial where like Kendall Jenner was like running up to the law and then like she like opened up a Pepsi and then they were friends again, and then like everybody just started dragging them because it just felt really insensitive for what was happening about police brutality in the industry. And then like when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, you guys didn't have any Black people in your marketing group because that wouldn't have made it to real life. So it's like there's been a bunch of things that like we'll see, and me and my friends who are Black will be like, oh no, you shouldn't do that because of this, and it won't see the light of day and they won't get dragged on Black Twitter or in the news. So like if for nothing else, like you just need Black people to save yourself from PR scandals and you need the people who work in the company to match the people who you're trying to reach.
Exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah, I would say, echoing everything they said, like, and again, like diversity equals success. Like if you have a team and they're all white men from Connecticut, like you guys are all gonna think the same. And it's just like the more different people, not even race, like backgrounds, even like different majors, the more like diverseness you have in the room, it's just like, it's gonna spark more ideas that you may not be thinking of already. So yeah, everything they said.
Definitely. I 100% agree. Like there's been times where I catch little things in my job that I'm just like, oh, like, why aren't we reaching the right audience? Why aren't we reaching more Black people? So just having those Black voices is really crucial, especially in these days with everything that's going on. So before we jump to this next question, I want to launch our poll. I want to see where you guys are from. Are you guys currently working in tech? What types of roles are you guys interested in tech? So, we can really cater this conversation for you guys. Like, we want you guys to really get benefit out of here. Remember to ask your questions so we can, answer them. And yeah, so launching the poll now, make sure you guys answer. And going off of, having that person of color, Black voice in these companies, like, would you say being like a person of color, like, is it hard to really have that seat at that table, really like, feel comfortable to share your ideas with your team, with your department, like, even if you're presenting, like, how would you say like being that one Black person in the room makes you feel when you want to share and speak up?
Yeah, I can start with this one.
Okay.
I think I think a lot about, do you remember that monologue that was in Scandal where Olivia Pope's dad just kind of was really hammering into her, like, you got to be twice as good to get half as much. And I mean, one could say that scene was really dramatic, but it's really true. And it really shows up in everyday life. So I feel like just being Black in the workspace, like you have to do twice as much to get the baseline level of respect that some of your peers have. So it's like you gotta play catch up before you can even get there. Whereas like some people just kind of take other people's opinions for fact. It's like you have to prove yourself and have a lot of wins before people start giving you that same kind of respect. I know it varies from team to team and company to company, but I've just seen that happen in a lot of scenarios where it's easy to get dismissed. And it's also just like a fine line you have to walk. I think especially being a Black woman, where sometimes you'll get the trope of like being aggressive or like being the angry Black woman. So like you have to figure out how to be, vocal and making sure you're getting your voice heard, but like you don't want to cross over to angry Black woman and like aggressive and, having that energy. So I feel like just navigating those sort of like nuances, as well as just kind of having to play catch up when you get there definitely makes it challenging, but it's totally possible. And when you find your stride, I think you really do find your stride, but I do think it does add an extra layer of challenge to a situation that's already challenging.
Definitely. Does anyone else want to take that, or should we jump into the next one? I think Shayla really like hit it on.
100%.
Definitely. So I guess just like a fun question, like, you know, a lot of things have been coming out of quarantine and like staying at home. Like, what are some new tech innovations that you guys are looking forward to, whether at your company or just what's going on?
I can also wait. Malik, do you want to go? Okay.
Good.
I like how like there's so many apps now that just let you connect with like different parts of the world. Being the fact that we have to stay in our house, so like all this like fun stuff like house party, like letting you play games with your friends while you're all together. You know, the fun backgrounds on Zoom and Microsoft Teams where you can like, you know, have a fun background and like, you know, while you're having a team meeting, it's like a fun conversation starter and just difference, letting you connect in a way where we're not together at all. So I think like in that form, like how we can just connect with people that's not necessarily next to us, and like how all these cool companies are doing different things to adapt to the current state that we're in right now.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely plus one to the live features. I feel like we've all like kind of have been on Instagram live at some point. But I think even outside of live, I'm really excited about commerce as a whole. I've always been intrigued by like e-commerce and online shopping and stuff like that. And really this time is showing us like how big that market is and how much more growth and opportunities that we have. You know, like some of our buying experiences are like very fragmented where we have to like see an ad and then go somewhere else to make a purchase. It's like it's not as seamless. So I think that a lot of companies are starting to kind of put a focus on how to make commerce more frictionless. So I would say I'm very excited about that, and definitely looking forward to like whatever is coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I love that. I think building off of what both of them said, I'm really interested in how like this older generation is now being forced to be more tech savvy because of this time. So like just on Mother's Day yesterday, there was like a bunch of Zoom calls with like my grandmother and like her sisters. And I'm just like, y'all did not know what Zoom was in February. So it's kind of cool to see like they're learning these new skills and like what is that going to mean for the future of, you know, marketing at Facebook or Microsoft or Lyft. You know, we're going to have a bit more tech savvy generation that wasn't before. So like that could be a new audience. And I just wonder what that's going to do.
Yeah, like literally plus one to that. Like yesterday on my Mother's Day Zoom, my grandma was asking me like, how does she sign up for a Spotify account? Because she's like, yeah, like I listen to music. Like I'm just like, okay. Like she's like, yeah, I know you work there. I'm like, yeah, sure. So we're
yeah,
gonna
like they weren't checking for your grandma before, and now they are.
Yes, she was not looking for Spotify before this, so but you know, shout out to her. So we're gonna answer one of the questions from the guests in the audience. So Brooklyn asks, how do you find internships and job opportunities? Do you have any tips for how to succeed in the job search and interview process?
So many options. I would say definitely like I was lucky where I went to a school where, you know, they had a resource center on campus that they would always post like job opportunities. And a lot of these colleges have partnerships with companies. So they come to the school and recruit there too. But LinkedIn is super powerful. I think like I always say this to people who are looking, like I can't stress it enough. Some like even how I got my job, like LinkedIn was involved. You know, post your projects on there. Also, don't be afraid to reach out to people. I've learned after like actually physically applying to so many jobs and like getting a notification email like 2 hours after, like, you know, okay, we've got your application, you know, and you never hear back. But like reach out to people, find the connection, you know, if they went to your school before, if they worked at a company you used to work at before, reach out to them, you know, just reach out to some people. Some people are nice. I would say, you know, networking is key. I used to always kind of be afraid of it and like not be like, but like it's really powerful. So I would say, you know, LinkedIn, organizations as well too. You know, there's There's groups like Ad Color, where if they're helping people that are in the advertising industry in the beginning, you can be a part of this program. It'll help you find opportunities as well too. There's so many like different groups as well too. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to share some more sources that I have.
Thanks, Fanta.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Like, I think she covered that ground, and I think when you're looking for the jobs too, like when it comes to searching for the jobs, I feel like my advice would be to just like get in where you fit in. So it's not always a straight line. Like, say you want to be in marketing at Microsoft, like that doesn't necessarily mean you need to get the marketing internship or the marketing role at Microsoft, because things change. And like, if you got a ad sales background and it's easier for you to get in the door through the ad sales, like do that, especially at tech companies, especially some like the size of Lyft, things change like the weather. So you might come in as an ad sales intern and that very day you might become a marketing intern. So it's like, just use what you have and like get in there and just be more open-minded when you're looking for roles. Like, it might not be your dream team, dream role, dream company, but it's a start.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo Shayla's point there. I think that's a really big point. Is like mobility between like within like the tech companies is so huge. So if you feel like, just looking at your background or expertise that like, hey, like I don't have, whatever skills that say like you want to become an engineer at a company, right? It's like, oh, I don't have like those software developer skills right now, but I do have, some type of like project management skills that would be better suited. It's like you can go there first and then you can move to a different role like within a year or 2 years, 3 years, whatever the time frame is for you to attain those skills. And at least you'll be in the company. So like internal transfers are so much easier than like and this applying externally. So that's a really big point, Shayla.
Yeah, I would definitely echo off of that. Like a lot of tech companies, once you're in, like they love keeping you, like if you, especially if you're a good employee. So they always want to, support your career endeavors and goals. So definitely +1 for that also. So I guess like moving on to, being in quarantine, like what advice would you give people for like networking or like college seniors who are looking for jobs right now? Like, the world is kind of crazy. People are getting laid off and furloughed. Like, but these college seniors may not even had an opportunity to enter the workforce. So, what are some things that they can be doing now? That was a question from Bree.
Yeah, I think right now it's definitely a hard time. I think a lot of companies acknowledge that, and even like us as human beings, we're acknowledging that too. But I would say there are some opportune moments as well. Like there are some companies that are actually doing really well during COVID-19, even though that may sound like kind of counterintuitive. But there are some companies that are like growing and like actively looking for like great talent that's either being like furloughed or laid off, or even like recent college graduates. So I would say just kind of just look at the news and see what's happening in regards to like company news and what's going on entirely, and really look for those open opportunities. LinkedIn right now, like Fanta said, is a powerful tool, and I think that's where I've seen a lot of job opportunities be posted, and people be like, hey, like this company laid off people, but like we would love to hire that talent, so like reach out to me, I'm a recruiting manager and stuff like that. So I just feel like LinkedIn and just kind of keeping abreast of what's going on will probably be the best thing to do right now.
Yeah. I would also say, like, if you have a lot of free time, use this time to like start a project or something. Like, for example, a lot of people may want to get into the tech industry and not have a tech background. This is a perfect time for you to start something that you can actually put on your resume and be able to speak to it. Tech companies love hearing about impact. Like, you may not need to say, you never took an IT class, or you never, had a tech job. What is the impact that you had? Like, maybe you started a blog that focused on like the cool things tech companies are doing right now. It could be focused on, Black people in tech and like sharing stories. Use this time for granted right now. You have so much time. Like, use this, like you can treat your project as a job. Like, for example, a big part of my job getting into like advertising in tech, I never took an advertising class or had an advertising background. However, I was doing advertising for a nonprofit and was able to speak about that for like the majority of this role, which helped me get it. So like I said, use this time for projects. Really, that's what I would do.
Yeah. And definitely, I would say networking. Like, I know we always keep going back to LinkedIn, shout outs LinkedIn, but like reach out to people. Like if you see someone in like a role that you may think interests them, build that genuine relationship with them. Like reach out, shoot them a note, say like, hey, I'm really interested in learning what you're doing. Like, would you have 15 minutes for, to reach out? Like right now, I believe like, everyone's not like running to work and then happy hours and dinners, like they have a lot of free time. So I feel like now is more than any time that like people will be willing to take these calls and, talk to people. So don't be afraid. Like I've literally reached out to so many people on LinkedIn in my past, and it really works. So definitely, do that.
Yeah, big +1 to everything that y'all said. And people are just coming together right now. Like we at Lyft, we had pretty big layoffs maybe a week and a half ago, in all transparency, but it's like the way the community came together. Like by the end of that day, there were lists of people who were looking for jobs. There were people writing LinkedIn recommendations for each other. There were people reviewing each other's resumes. There were people who used to work at Lyft shouting out the people who got laid off. So it's like people are really open and willing to come together and support each other right now. So just capitalize that on that, like how Michelle and Fanta were saying.
See, and I see to Tahisha, I'm sorry if I said it wrong, just plugged herself in there. She has her master's. She wants to work in digital marketing, artist, looking for leads. Exactly. Like do that. You don't know who's in the room. So shout out to you. Keep on doing stuff like that.
Exactly. Like this is here for you guys to connect with each other. Like exactly. You don't know who's in the room. You don't know who can give you next opportunity. So just reach out. Let's all build this network and connect. So I want to kind of get into the fun stuff, like the perks of the tech companies and everything. Like, everyone sees like these companies as like dreams and whatever, but what is your favorite part about working at a tech company? It could be, the people you work with, the ERGs, the free food. Like, just let me like be real. Like, what's your favorite part about working at a tech company?
Okay, so like this answer will probably change, but like, so before working from home was like normal, like where we're all doing it now, I really like love that like it was okay for my job to like work wherever I was, or say, I'm gonna take this week and work from home. Where I have some friends where like, their company's not equipped to, they don't have the VPN network. Like if they're not at their desk, they can't do work. So that's something that like I really like, just the like flexibility of it. As well as like there's so many different departments at tech, and like how we all have to come together. So I like having the ability to be able to work with different teams and stuff like that. And then of course like going on trips, traveling. Tech companies have the budget to do stuff like that. So I love traveling. I love to do it for work. So definitely work from home. The salary, the benefits, of course, and traveling.
Yeah, I would say just coming from a background where there wasn't like a lot of diversity at the companies I was at, I feel like just being around tons of Black people, but I think even more so importantly is Black men. So within Facebook, like we have a Black man which is like a Black men FBRG. And that was huge because for me, it's something I've been talking about a lot in my career. There's a lot of like people of color, and by a lot, I mean like there's people of color in advertising. But as far as like Black men, I definitely don't see a lot of us. And when I do see us, like they may be high in the ranks, and it's so hard. I wouldn't say hard, but it's like this some type of like weird thing where it's like reaching out to someone that's really high up and then them talking to you. It's like that's just not a thing for sometimes, and that was like really frustrating for me. But it's like being at Facebook and being around like so many Black men where that's non-existent. That to me was really big and like my favorite part so far, and just being able to lean into that network.
Nice.
I think my favorite part is the equity. So I was in entertainment, and they ain't had no money in entertainment unless you was like real high up. And then when I got my first job in tech at Amazon, they gave me stocks as like part of my package, and I was like, "What's that?" I didn't even know how it worked. So, and then I just think like especially in the Black community, like we're kind of behind in terms of like generational wealth and just certain aspects of finances that other groups of people know more about. So I think that the fact that when you work at a tech company, you also just like, you don't just get a really great salary and free lunch, but they also give you part of the company, and like you get stocks that will grow and like you can bring with you once you leave. I think that is really cool. And I've only ever seen that in tech. So I love that.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, I would go for the free food because, that's great. And the nap rooms that we have, that is, key. Like, I feel like they always try to find ways for you to not work while you're at work. So,
But are you really taking a nap in the nap room?
I mean, like sometimes, like you get to work at 8:30. Like I work globally, so I have like, meetings really early. Might have to like take a 20-minute break. Like, you know.
That's like the vacation days. Like some tech companies have unlimited vacation days, and
Oh yeah,
some people might argue that that might encourage people to not take any vacation days because it's like ambiguous.
Exactly. So I'm going to jump over to a question from Elise. She said, what are your thoughts on the balance of extra opportunities to connect now, like Zoom, House Party, Microsoft Teams, etc., with real life connections and interactions that humans have been accustomed to, like personally or with their brands? Do you think that there's an opportunity for tech to have a non-biased solve for this in the near future or down the line? Just curious thoughts. It's a very good question.
Yeah, great question. Sorry, I'm like looking at it again.
I could put I don't know if this really answers the question, but I'm gonna plug my company a little bit real quick. One of Lyft's overall goals is to transform cities around people and not cars. So like the whole idea is that like this whole idea concept of ride sharing is so that there could be less cars on the road, less pollution. We could turn highways into parks and for places for people to like be people again versus just, vehicles. So like right now, I mean, gas I heard is like $2, and like people aren't driving, people aren't on the roads. Like I've been hearing the animals are taking the streets again, but it's like this is kind of like the world that we hope to eventually get in. I mean, we don't want to be quarantined and stuck inside, but maybe with less driving, it'll change people's behaviors, and we could have more of a city around, communal spaces for places for us to connect again once we're able to go outside. So again, not sure that answered the question, but that's just where my mind went.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And that's something like, what if we get too used to this? Like, I was joking with Michelle, like, am I gonna be able to like walk outside and feel normal and like be able to talk to people normally? Like, I don't know, but I think one thing that like sets tech companies apart from others is like just adapting to what's going on right now. And I think that's what all these companies are just trying to do. We see the current climate of what's happening, we're adapting to it, and then let's say something else happens, we're gonna adapt to that too. But that's something I'm very curious about too. So if anyone knows the answers or would love to share, definitely write that down in there.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies are gonna probably find like striking a balance between the two, because I think that during quarantine we didn't like really cut the fat, but we noticed that some things are actually better virtually, or can be connected in some type of virtual atmosphere. But also there's a component of like the human life and like what reality actually is. So I think a lot of companies are probably gonna have to find like how to strike the balance of maintaining like what was going on during COVID-19, but also sustaining like what we actually enjoy in real life. So we may see a lot of pivots around there if that answers the question. But I think it's just ultimately probably what Fanta had said, just really understanding like the times and seeing where consumer behavior is starting to really bend.
Yes, agreed on all points. So we have a question from Taylor Reeves. She asks, what is a discipline, space, and technology that you're interested in learning even more about outside your role?
I would love to know more about augmented reality and VR. I feel like that space is so big, but like the percentage on like how we got there is like so small. So I would love to know more about that. I'm not as tech knowledgeable on that, but I would love to know more for sure.
I think it's a great answer. I guess I'd be interested in growth marketing. So I work in traditional marketing now, but I know there's like the labyrinth of paid media and like, all this like search targeting, and like tech companies have an extensive amount of data. I mean, there's a lot of privacy things in the news recently, but it's like they have a lot, and they use it in really smart ways to target and to grow already really large businesses. So I would just love to know more about the intricacies of how that works.
Shayla, I got you.
I would say like I don't even know what the name of this role would be, but like I would love to like be on the team like when the idea just starts and like the full like starting it before. So like for example, let's say like Microsoft said, okay, this idea of Microsoft Teams, like we're gonna do this, go ahead. Like I don't even know what that role is called, but like the idea part of it and then building it up. Okay, how are we gonna market it out to people? You know, how are we gonna understand what the users want? So like I don't know if you know the name of that kind of role, drop that down in there too. That would be something cool.
Yeah. Like there's so much going on, like virtual gaming. There's like all of these things that, we don't even touch every day, but, people in our companies may have. So I would say like a lot of times it could be, setting up these little coffee chats with people in your companies to learn about different parts of the business, different things of tech. So yeah, like that's definitely things that we should all explore. So Ayana asks, several of you are founders of your own companies. Can you speak about how to break into the tech space as an entrepreneur? What helped you to get started in building your own communities and platforms of service? I think Fanta, this is really for you.
I would say, I mean, it depends on what you want to start to. Like, for example, the blog that I started, it has nothing to do with tech at all, but I'm using like data because I learned that from my role, like data, making decisions from data is like the key to success. So I guess it depends on what you want to start. If you want to answer, like drop that real quick, or I mean, I personally am passionate about beauty and just finding resources for women of color just because I hate like how whenever I went to like YouTube or searching, it was always like, okay, hairstylist for Black women. Like I hate always having to type for a Black woman. Like, why is there not just this one space that has all that stuff there? So that was just from my own experience. And then, being able to use like the data analytics from like Instagram and seeing what the audience likes to see, that's been helping me say, okay, well, I'm going to make these decisions instead of what I was doing before. So yeah, I can't code well, I could code a website, but like I can't code like an app or something. So like you don't have to be like a software engineer or something to build your own platform and use tech and data to make it successful.
Definitely. And I guess like I would say that like I come from like a music entertainment background. Like I've always been in entertainment. So like I kind of found my way into tech through like my passions. And like I started this platform for, to give back and to really connect each other and connect people. And, that's what I do at my job. Like I do media for music and podcasts. So, I'm connecting people who we target to like, podcasts that they may like, songs that they may like, music every day. So it kind of just has to like go hand in hand with what you, I guess, like what your passions are and like what you would rely on. But I would always say like stick to your passions. Like if there's something that you want to do, like Fanta said before, it can even help you leverage yourself to get yourself into that role, get yourself into the career that you want just by doing your own side passion projects.
Mm.
So next question is, what advice would you give to your past self before entering into the tech world?
Mm.
What's meant to be will be. Like, don't be upset if you got to know. I remember I would be like upset if I had an interview and I didn't think it went well. And like now that I look back and I would laugh, like it's okay. Like what's meant for you will happen. Like all that, like it's a humbling process. Like I just keep on saying that what's meant for you will happen. What's meant to happen will happen. So just breathe, relax, and take it one step at a time.
Literally that. Like it's just sometimes you get a no and it hurts really bad, but sometimes it's just something better is coming. Sometimes it's a not now. Like you might end up at that same company 5 years later at a crazy different position or a very fitting team. So it's just timing. You just gotta trust the divine timing. Like you just what's meant to be will be. Like I remember when I got this job, it was between this and another job that I was interviewing for like 4 months and I didn't get that. And like I was crushed, but that job was in New York and this is in San Francisco. And now I can't even imagine myself not being in San Francisco. So it's just like every no has a purpose in your life. So like after you get over the initial sting of it, just like try and find a lesson and keep it pushing towards your blessings.
And just to be real, me and Shayla, I remember we used to be pressed for this company. I'm not gonna say the name, but we want to work there so bad. Like we like some of us made it to the interview and just somewhat like basically it didn't work out. But like to this day, like harassing us on LinkedIn, like, hey, can we talk? Can we talk? Can we interview? And it's like I used to look at that now, like back then, like wow, like
we laugh about this like every week. We're just like, yo, remember when we wanted to work something really bad?
The level up is real.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything to really add on to that. Definitely plus one of that as well. But I think the only thing is I wish I would have taken advantage of some time as well to learn other things. I think for me that I was so kind of gun ho on like what my next role or like move would be because I know like I always knew where I wanted to go or where I wanted to be. So I was so focused on like outlining kind of like how to get there. But really not focused on like just being present of where I was and just like taking advantage of the time being like, okay, I can just like do my work, but also like build my skills and some other thing that I wanted to do and then get to where I wanted to be. I think for me, I would go back and change that. But then it's like, would I have? Because, things, I don't know. But I think that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Definitely.
one thing I would add to, I don't know if we have any college students on here, but I would say one regret I had is all my internships were at the same company. So like sophomore year, I had an internship at this company, and then they offer you like after you do well at the internship, they say, okay, you're good for next summer. So I kind of wish that I explored more at that time. So if you have any like college students there, like definitely try different companies, try different roles, like use that time to understand. Because then like when you're older, it's really hard. So that's one thing I would definitely recommend.
Definitely. And I guess like leading off of the college student thing, what would you say for college students now who are interested in tech, interested in like, we have a question from Chris saying that he's interested in mechanical engineer, but should he keep his eyes open for any other tech opportunities? Like, what would you say?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that one more time?
So Chris asked, he said he's going to be a freshman at the University of Michigan, and he wants to be a mechanical engineer. Should he, stay his eyes straight on mechanical engineering opportunities, or should he be open to other tech opportunities as well?
Yeah, I would say one thing about like the landscape now is like you may have one major and you don't have to be tied to that. Like you can end up in another job. But I would say like follow what you're passionate about. Definitely explore, like stay what you want to do and what you're passionate about. So um if that's what keeps you up at night, do it. But I would also say one thing that, kind of opened my eyes for some of my friends is like think about like landscapes and like just industries that are going to be relevant at all times. I've seen a lot of people like, get affected during this time. You've seen a lot of companies go, have to fire all their employees or just, go out of business. I would say like, think about if that's something that you're if you want to think about your life in the future and ahead, or if you want to go with what you're super passionate about, just take all these things into consideration when you're looking to like have a career in something. You can always have a career in something. Like I love tech, but like I love beauty. So like my platform outside of work is that too. So it's okay to have a job in one thing and like spend your passion project and your time off of that doing something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I also think like I feel like you need to be three things, like flexible, hungry, and persistent, which those last two things might be the same. But like I have one friend who really wanted to be in like product for so long. And like he went to the team at Afrotech one year, which for all the people of color interested in tech, like definitely look into that conference and like talk to the team and was like, yo, I want to be in product. And they were like, okay, you're not there yet, but you got to do this, this, and that, and then you'll be there. And then he went and did this, this, and that. And then he circled back a year later and they were just like, oh, wow, you really came back with that. And then he got the job. So it's like, if you're in mechanical engineering and like you don't get it right away, like you be flexible, like you might go into some other sort of engineering or something relevant at the time, but like don't forget about your passion, like what Fanta said, and just like keep being vocal about your passions, like let the recruiters know, all right, I'm gonna come back and then we're gonna talk, and then go secure the bag.
Nice. That's actually like really amazing. I feel like I've heard that story come from a bunch of people. So that's definitely something that you guys should be doing. We've had like several people ask this question in different ways, forms, and everything. But I guess like, what is an important skill that you have shown to get yourself that role? Like, no matter like if you came from marketing, you came from entertainment, like, what do you think that one skill that I guess is transferable against all industries would be?
I would say I said this earlier, but impact. Like no matter what you did, it could be like you know, you could be a cashier, like not just like just trying to be show you the example, but like what was your impact? I feel like tech companies they want no matter what you do, your background, they can always teach you the skills that they want you to have. But like, what can you bring to the table? So I think no matter whatever you do, you're like whatever role you're in now or whatever you were doing in college, if you could talk about your impact, like what was special, what did you bring to the team, what did you bring to the table, that is something that like really sticks with people wanting to hire you. So impact, but again, also just like skills that are important. Like, I mean, knowing how to use like social media and analytics, knowing how to read an Excel report and make recommendations. That's my part.
Yeah, I would say it kind of depends within the tech world, like kind of what role you're going after. But I think one consistent one across most roles is kind of understanding clients and how to talk to them. So I think that kind of is a segue similar to what Fanta was saying, is really about impact, but also influence. So if you're able to like look at a data set or look at some type of recommendation and draw conclusions, and then somehow relay that to someone else and get them to buy in or understand exactly what you're talking about, that is a really great skill that not even within the sales organizations, but any organization that you're in where they need people to be able to relay information, speak, pretty well about something, or be able to kind of just paint a picture to someone and someone be like, wow, like I get it, I got it. Can you help me get there? Like what are my next steps? I think that's an invaluable skill.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I think for me, it would be adaptability and then versatility. So I feel like the one constant is change. And even at really large established tech companies, they're still coming up with new things all the time. Like if you're in entertainment, like if you wasn't on the digital boat before, like you better now, like with Disney Plus and everything. So like you gotta learn how to adapt. And like even if your role has been the same for years and years and years, it could change. And like the people who can change with it are going to be the people who can stay or the people who they want to bring on. And then I think versatility. So all these tech companies are diversifying their products. Malik was talking about e-commerce, like every kind of, all these tech companies are kind of launching these new products, and like you want to have a diverse set of skills and interests and background outside of just the one that you're looking at now, to show that like you'll be a really value add. Even if the business changes, like you'll have new and different knowledge to bring to the table.
Yeah, for sure.
Also,
Definitely.
I just had one more thing to add on to that that just came to me as we're talking about different businesses,
Okay.
different tech companies. I think the most important skill too is kind of understanding like the tech company that you're applying for, but understanding like their fit in the space, but also their impact in the world. So I think if you're able to understand exactly like the operations of that company, and when you're going to the interview, talk about that, that is huge, because I think sometimes, especially within the social realm, they think that like Facebook, Instagram are just like social products. People like post pictures, update their statuses and stuff like that. But it's from a business perspective, it's so much more than that. Like social doesn't drive revenue or bring in money for Facebook and Instagram. It's really like so much other layers that does. So I think understanding that and kind of the framework of the business, I think that's like a huge thing that can be sometimes forgotten about when you're talking about tech.
Yeah, for sure. All like literally all these things. So I know we've talked about LinkedIn being like the best thing right now to reach out, and like, everyone should reach out on LinkedIn. But Erica asked, how do you feel about reaching out on other forms of social media like Instagram, DMs, Twitter, Facebook?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, I've had people slide in my Instagram DMs about an opportunity, and it all depends on the person. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is they don't respond or they say, "Don't write me again." So just write the message. Like, shoot your shot. You'd be surprised at how many people, like how if someone wants to talk to someone, you'd be surprised like the measures they will go to get in contact with that person or just get that FaceTime. So do it, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have tons of probably like LinkedIn and mail messages that still are unread. So I feel like, LinkedIn is a great vehicle, but if you're able to get that person's email somehow, that's great. Whether it be probably most parts gonna be their work email. But yeah, any by all means necessary, however you can reach that person. I think Instagram and social may be like too invasive depending on who you're reaching out to. But yeah, just any way how.
And be like, like be direct. Like if you're gonna take someone's time, like I've gotten some LinkedIn messages like, hey, I'm interested in tech, period. And I'm like, okay, like this can go so many ways. So like, like treat it as like, you have 2 seconds to shoot your shot, be like, I'm interested in this. I've seen you done X, Y, and Z. You have 10 minutes for coffee. I'd be happy to, grab coffee and chat for 10 minutes. Like be direct, say what you want, say what you know about the person and how they can help you. And then end it with like, can you do this? Cause like, okay, you're telling me you're interested in tech and you want my help. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to respond? Do you want me to get on a phone call? Like, be direct with what you want.
Facts.
Agreed. I feel like you don't have to have a 5 minute conversation too asking me about how my quarantine is going before you ask for your ask. Just make the ask. Because then once you
Yeah.
get to the ask, it'll feel weird, like you're trying to butter me up. And then like to Malik's point, I mean, it might get a little invasive sometimes, but I agree with Fanta, like shoot your shot on Instagram, but like maybe get scrappy. So like if you know one of Malik's friends, like have Malik's friend to be like, hey, my friend is interested in X. So like it might feel a little bit less invasive for him. So like get creative.
Seriously, I would say don't reach out to me on Twitter. I won't respond, but I'll answer you on LinkedIn, Instagram, or wherever. Okay, so the next question is like, I really want to like know more, I guess, like what about your passions? Like, what are you passionate about in your job? So like, tell me about a part of your job or a project that you worked on that you really felt passionate about. And second question, two-parter, where would you be if you weren't working in tech?
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, so I definitely like I would be an entrepreneur. I just like that's just my energy. That's what I like to do. So I would be an entrepreneur, starting my own company if I wasn't in tech. And what was your first question?
Like what's a part of your job that you feel proud of or like you're super passionate about, maybe like it's a specific project or something?
Oh yeah, so I guess I'll like give a little plug, and this is a to be, announced project. But one lucky thing that I got to do, which I'm super thankful, just for the environment that I have. So I basically told like my manager was like, hey, I want to like do an event because for my job I help advertisers with their advertising on Bing. So any type of digital advertising efforts. So I was like, I have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs or small, medium sized businesses that like aren't thinking of Bing when they want to promote their business. So I was like, hey, like I would love to, host an event for all my entrepreneur friends, explaining the power of what they can do on our platform and like lead that event and like let it be my event and my baby. And, was really surprised at how they were like, okay, yeah, go for it, do this, X, Y, and Z, let us know what you need. So again, put, my LinkedIn will be down here. But if you are a small, medium-sized business owner or just want to know more about digital advertising efforts, I will be hosting that event in New York sometime soon. It was supposed to happen recently, but this whole Mr. Rona wanted to come up and mess everything. But that will happen. So I'm really happy that I'm working on that project outside of my role. That has nothing to do with my day-to-day job, but I'm getting to bring my passions together. Like, yes, I'm helping the company, but I'm also helping my community, bringing that knowledge to them.
That's really amazing, Fanta. Literally.
Yeah, I guess if I wasn't working at tech, I'm really passionate about sneakers and its footwear as a whole. So I'd probably be working at like a company like Nike or any of the other companies. But also I'm very passionate about like some of the upcoming, I guess you can say, streetwear brands. So I think a lot of them, like I just love marketing in general. So I think that's why I'm in marketing. But I think I would help them with their marketing, like grassroots marketing, understanding how to build a digital brand. Some of them are doing them like very on a small scale perspective, like I'm a huge fan of Ame, and like they curate their Instagram content like pretty well, but I don't see them putting a lot of like dollars behind digital. So I would help a lot of like those type of companies if it wasn't like a big corporation like a Nike or anything like that. Um, but yeah, so your last question again was, so your first question?
Oh, so like, what's something a part of your job that like you're
Oh,
passionate about or super proud about?
yeah. This kind of ties into that. I just love talking to people. Um, so I think for me, like I'm the most passionate about talking to clients, understanding their business challenges, and then understanding how we can help solve that. So I think for me, that's probably the most like gratifying and best part of my job, really just connecting their business challenges and talking them through with them and just like being a person. Because I think sometimes like the company can be like very it can kind of scare people like, oh, this person's talking to me from Facebook. It's like, no, I'm a human being as well. So I think this like humanizing the recommendations and just talking to them as like a professional, I think that's the best part.
Yeah, that's so real.
I love that. I guess if I weren't in tech and I weren't working in entertainment, because I that's like my other love, I might try and be a travel influencer. I might be bad at it, but
I asked for
I'm
that.
trying to travel, trying to work from anywhere. So
Okay,
I might
Bali.
try, might try and figure out how to really do that for real, for real. So that might be it. Ooh, I hate to ask you this the third time. Oh yeah, okay. Passionate project. I'm really passionate about communities and building communities and like understanding what makes a fandom a fandom. So like what makes everybody so obsessed with Game of Thrones and like Harry Potter, like what makes you want to like throw on a Wizards uniform and like run through the streets of San Diego. Like, you know, like what is that magic that like connects people in that kind of way? So I'm really interested in any kind of project that helps me build community. I think it's why I'm in social. Like I like to understand what makes a group of people a group of people. And if it can have some social good in it, that would be great too. We did a project back in, I don't even know, time is blending together, maybe February, where we launched a program that sort of puts together all of our social impact initiatives. And we launched it in partnership with LeBron James and his company Uninterrupted. And the whole idea was like in partnership with him, we were going to give out bike share memberships to underserved youth across America. So it was cool to sort of like build like what was that communication, like how are we going to connect the people who care about policy with the people who are just actually in these communities, with the people who just care about bikes, and just like figuring out what that through line messaging is for everybody. As well as we got to like host a live event in Harlem where we had LeBron James tell all the kids that they were getting bike share memberships. So I love like projects that actually put me on the ground and like capturing real time and like within that community in real time.
That's so dope. Yeah, that's definitely something you should be proud of. That's amazing. So I guess we can answer about like 2, 3 more questions. I don't want to hold up, too much of everyone's time, but I think Maurice, sorry if I butchered that, asked, can you speak in regards to an opportunity that you took a risk or an opportunity that was initially denied to you, and how did you navigate that to benefit your career journey?
Okay. So, yeah, I guess I have one. So, for my current role at Microsoft, they originally said, hey, this role is in Seattle. And I was like, oh, I was in Seattle. And, they were like, hey, but like, so like, are you going to come for this interview? It's in Seattle. So I was like, you know what? Let me just go there. It's not like I didn't even have a plan. Like I was like, okay, let me kind of entertain it. Like even though I knew deep down I didn't want to move to Seattle. So I guess a risk could have been like if they said, hey, this is in Seattle, and I would have been like, nah, I'm not doing it. And then I wouldn't be here. And luckily, I'm not in Seattle. So that's a story that I have. And I think sometimes a role may not be in the location you want it to be. I would also say go ahead and just I would, if looking back at it now, I'd be like, go to another city for a couple months. You can always come back, home or whatever. But I'm just happy that I didn't let like that scare me from saying, nah, I'm not going to apply. So, yeah.
That's great.
I guess a risk for me was like I was saying before, like it might not be the exact team within the company that you want, but if it's in your larger plan, go ahead and go for it. So like when I first started working at Amazon, it was within their like audiobook leg of things. And like, I mean, I love books, but like I didn't know anything about that or like who that audience was. And like I was coming from an audience who I was deeply entrenched with. So it was like, okay, this is a whole other challenge for me and like not exactly the team I would pick. And their office was in New Jersey and all my friends were in New York. So I had to like go and like decide whether I was going to take that risk and like do something that's not exactly that straight line. And it ended up working out great. I mean, being on that kind of team, we were working on like properties and just sort of, I was able to find the entertainment in it. So like we would have a book, like when Michelle Obama's Becoming came out and like she was the narrator for that. So it was like, it was a lot of points where that actually ended up coming into my life and I was able to still make it work and cover events and, you know, go to Comic-Con and do these things. So I think just, yeah, like I was saying before, like practice what you preach. Like if it doesn't always have to be the dream team and it can still work out for you.
Yeah, I think for me, it wasn't necessarily something that was denied, but it definitely wasn't like somewhere where I necessarily wanted to be. But I was like, okay, if I want to get there, like I have to be here first. So I think like, you know, after leaving my first job out of college, I was one that's the biggest and hardest thing I think to anyone to do because being straight out of college, like you just have like a certain comfortability of like a space. So you're like, oh, like I know this team, like they support me every realm. I see like my career growing here in the whole entire gamut. So I think for me, it was like making that jump somewhere else. I was like very hesitant about, but I did it because I knew that like I wanted to go somewhere else after my spot where I was. So I think for me, it was like that being okay, being uncomfortable, but also knowing that I was going there for just, you know, for whatever the case may be. And then like I was looking for another opportunity exactly where I wanted to put my time and energy in. So as I think that for me, it was kind of like something that wasn't necessarily denied, but it was like not somewhere where I wanted to be, but I just made the move because I knew that I had to keep going.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say, you know, take risk. We're young. Like there's so many opportunities that, you know, you may take that may turn into the best times of your life. So I would just say while we're young and we have the opportunity to take as many risks as possible, move across the country, move to that city, take that role, because you never know like who will be knocking on your door next. So that is definitely all good advice.
That's true. Me and Malik both recently moved from our
Yes.
family and friends.
That is true.
And that was also like the hardest decision too, because like leaving New York where you know is home, all your friends are, and going to a city where you probably know like a handful of people, that's an extreme challenge. But also like then also knowing and growing in a new role at a new company, it was just a lot of factors that I don't know if we have enough time to really break down today, but I'm happy to talk about like relocation.
You can go into
What
it a little bit.
what that is like.
That is key. Like moving
I mean,
to a new city and stuff. That's scary.
yeah, it's like Malik said, like you're starting a new job on top of that. So like you don't even got no friends to go be stressed with because you don't know anybody. So you just gotta cry in your room. But, yeah, it just adds.
Okay, so I guess the last question, bringing it back to, you know, being young, Black, and in tech, and just all the diversity and everything. So Christian asks that he's curious, how have you navigated internally where usually you find yourself being the only person of color in the room? Like any pro tips, advice, or lessons that you learned that you're willing to share?
I'd say if you can, try your best not to code switch. So I feel like we naturally code switch. We all got the customer service voice that we put on, but it's like if you could really show up and be your authentic self, it just will be so much more valuable. And it's just such a learning opportunity. Like I've never had teams where there were a lot of Black people. So, but as a result of that, I feel like I know a lot more. Like I could talk to you about friends and all these different things. And so like, not only do I know about girlfriends, but I also know about like the other stuff. So it just makes you a more diverse person as a whole. So if you could do that and, you know, bring your unique perspective to the room, which is probably a big reason why they want you there in the first place, then you'll just win. I mean, it sucks sometimes to be the voice of all Black people, but if you don't code switch, like you'll start to be that person and have that place.
Honestly.
Yeah, I agree. That was something I told myself. Just gonna be super honest. In my past jobs, I definitely did code switch and just felt like I was like, okay, I'm gonna strategize. I'm gonna wear my box braids from this month to this month. I can't switch my hairstyle too soon yet. I don't want to scare them, and then do that. So like, and then when I started this new role, I was just like, go there and be yourself. Like it's tiring just trying to like put on this like, what did you watch today? Like, and just trying to be different or just like talk their language, just be yourself. Like Shayla said, like it's probably why they want you there in the first place. A lot of these people, never, it's scary, but like probably were never in classes or rooms with other Black people. So like just be yourself. Because we know Black people are the blueprint for everything. So like that's, trust me, everyone else is gonna love that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like it was a learning curve a little bit. Cause one, it was like, again, like there was a lot going on, a lot of variables, moving to new city, new job, everything like that. So I think for me, like the onboard experience where they actually talked about those things up front was like very jarring. I think I've never seen people talk openly about imposter syndrome or talk about bringing your authentic self to work and all those other factors. And once I started to hear that, I was like, so I could just walk around in my Yeezys and just like wear whatever I want to work and just be Malik in the workplace, because not saying I never was before, but there is some like aspects that you just don't like bring to work because like, oh, that's not okay to be in a workspace, or I don't want people thinking anything about me or anything like that. And it was like all those kind of things were completely thrown out the window immediately. So for me, it's like I just acknowledge that space automatically. Like when they, as a company, said that we want you to be your authentic self, we want you to do the most impactful work by being yourself. Like imposter syndrome is gonna happen, and then when it does happen, like talk about it, and it's like just know that you deserve to be here. So it's like when all those kind of no namers or like things get in your head, it was kind of like immediately thrown out when I hear that type of stuff. So I would say acknowledge it when you're in that space, acknowledge that you're the only Black person, but also like be comfortable in your own skin, because like you're there for a reason, and like you're driving, value for your team and value for the company, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I would just like to echo all of that. Like I used to work at like a company that was like majority people of color, majority like Black people. So like it was just like when I came into like my role now, it was just like 180. I was like there for almost 2 years, so I was just like, whoa, like there's like all these different perspectives. Like how can I be myself? Like am I allowed to be myself? But like I felt like once I was able to get comfortable and value my opinion and share like my thoughts, like they love it. Like they always rely on me for like different ideas and different perspective. Like the other week I literally told my boss about the shade room and like how like a lot of like Black people and people of color consume their media there, because so like honestly like that's something that it's not like the most regal of the platforms, but like it's something that we should consider buying, or looking into doing like a partnership for like hip hop or something like that. So like these are just things that they don't know, like they're unaware of. And we have to be these voices to really just like shed that light to make our industries and our roles pop. So definitely all agree.
Yeah.
Well, any last thoughts or like questions, anything else you guys want to say before we let everyone go? You guys have literally been great.
I think just echoing off Fanta said, like we're part of those people who are open to being reached out to. So feel free to do that. Yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Like, yeah, yeah, like Shayla said, connect with us. We're all friendly people. Happy we've been in the shoes that you probably want to know more about. So yeah, feel free to connect with me.
Yeah, and yeah, +2 to that as well. Like, appreciate Michelle for creating the space, most importantly, but also like feel free to reach out to any one of us. Like, you know, tech is such a big space. I know we have a few like company representations here, but you know, even if like your dream job is not at any of the companies that we work at, like there are a lot of different opportunities that are transferable elsewhere. So one, I think I can talk on behalf of all of us. We're big champions of like making sure you get into that space, helping you get there, and just talking about, you know, our experiences and being very candid. Like I think we're the most candid, transparent people. So happy to discuss anything and everything.
Definitely.
Yeah. And drop your LinkedIn's down there too. Connect with other people. There's a lot of people in here, so you never know who you can connect with.
Yeah, you never know who's in this room. So, you know, plug yourself as much as you can. Well, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to my chat speakers today, Malik, Fanta, and Shayla. You guys have literally gave so many gems, and like, I really feel like a lot of people got a lot out of this. You guys are all amazing, like all my best friends. So I really appreciate you guys for doing this, and let's continue to, you know, network and continue and just lead this on. So thank you guys so much. And tomorrow we have our chat, the sports world without sports. So that will be great if you guys want to tune in tomorrow. And then the rest of the week we have branding and we have a music chat. So, you know, come back for more gems. And remember, follow It's Epic Group on Instagram. And if you want to join our creative network, go to itsepicgroup.com. Thank you guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.